Hi, and welcome to the third day of our first ever Metal Fabrication Strategy Summit webinar series from Metal Forming Magazine and the Precision Metal Forming Association. I'm Luke Krenz, Senior Editor of Metal Forming, a publication of PMA, and I'm very pleased and excited to welcome you this morning. The first 2 days of the summit featured keynote speakers, followed by panel sessions. Today, we go straight to our two panels. The first focused on workforce development, and the second on growing your customer base. But before we get started, just a few notes about today's Zoom meeting. The meeting is being recorded for archiving, and the recorded event will be posted to our website within the next few days. We'll let you know via email when the recorded webinar is available for viewing online and for sharing with others in your company. Also, participants in this meeting are in listen-only mode. The speaker and other listeners will not be able to hear any audio from your site during the program. However, you do have the ability to communicate with us throughout the program by submitting your questions and comments using the Q&A button located on the bottom of your Zoom screen. Questions will be addressed in the time allotted at the end of the webinar presentation. And please ask questions of our panelists. We want this to be interactive, and panelists want to hear and speak to your questions and concerns. Okay, now it's my pleasure to introduce the first of two panel sessions today, Workforce Recruitment, Training, and Retention, moderated by Connie King, Workforce Development Director at the Precision Metal Forming Association. Take it away, Connie.
Thanks, Lou. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. As Lou said, I'm the Workforce Development Director here at PMA, and I want to thank our fabulous panelists for being with us. We have Stephanie Lowry, Mike Lauber, and Chris Zuzick, and no one can say anything better about themselves than themselves, so I'm going to turn it over and let them introduce themselves real quick. Go ahead, Stephanie, why don't you start and just kind of work your way over?
All right, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me to be a panelist. I was very excited for this opportunity. So I am the CEO of Dayton Rogers. Dayton Rogers is a sheet metal stamping and fabricating company, and we're an industry leader. We've been around since 1929. We have 4 different locations, Minneapolis, Columbus, Ohio, Columbia, South Carolina, and Arlington, Texas. So kind of all over the U.S. We do all kinds of stuff, stampings, all different stampings, progressive, modular, deep draws, fabrication, so lasers, turrets, brake presses, lots of different types of welding, some CNC machining. We assemble quite a bit, and we also have in-house tool room. I have been with the company since 2010, so about 15 years now, and I've done all kinds of things throughout the history of my tenure here. So I've learned a lot, and I'm just grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mike.
Mike Lauber, Chairman and CEO of TuscoMFG. I'm based here in rural Ohio. We have about 105,000 square feet, a little less than 100 people. We do sheet metal fabricating. About half of our business, though, is focused on designing, engineering, and producing custom store fixtures and point-of-purchase displays. But we really partner with clients who are looking for solution-driven vendors, somebody like us. We tend to keep clients a long time, work in sheet metal, tubing. In addition to the traditional fab kind of stuff, we also do powder coating, some machining work, some woodworking, even plastic fabricating as well.
Great. Chris?
Hi, Chris Zuzick. Good morning with Waukesha Metal Products. We are a contract manufacturing company. We do metal stamping, metal fabrication, assembly. We have 3 locations, 2 in Wisconsin and 1 in Mexico. We're probably just shy of 200 employees. Our Mexico facility is primarily all automotive to tier 1. Our Wisconsin facility is a mix between some automotive and other mix would be energy storage, HVAC. we're pretty diverse in a lot of different areas, and looking forward to having the chat today. I'm also serving on the executive board of PMA. So um, this is a great event for our members, and hope we continue to do this to get people encouraged about fabrication and snapping in our industry.
Right. Thanks again for everyone. So let's just kick this off. So, as workforce development director, and we have a lot of discussions about that topic. In our One Voice that we have weekly webinars on, and our Harbor Research, which is something that we can, as a member of PMA, you have access to. We have a lot of discussions about what the challenges are, and workforce comes up to the top of that discussion very often. So let's kind of go around the horn and say, what is one of your top workforce challenges at your organization? Feel free to chime in.
I'm not sure.
Well, I'm happy to. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Okay. Our biggest challenge is really making the mindset change from traditional recruiting to what I would say selling the value of being in manufacturing. We have to start thinking outside the box with regards to what is going to engage somebody to join our organization, and selling them like we sell our customers on the value of working for our organization, what it means for you today, tomorrow, and the future. And that's a different mindset. That's completely different than the traditional ways of doing it. We have to sell people, kids whose parents had a very negative feeling of manufacturing during the late 70s and 80s. So it's selling them on the value of coming to work at our company, Waukesha Metal Products, and on top of it, it's selling the value of being in manufacturing and all the things that are beneficial to that type of vocation. So it's a different mindset, and that's the biggest challenge we have in our industry right now.
I'm going to echo some of what you're saying, Chris. Encouraging people to in the community to consider manufacturing as a potential career lane. So many of our most successful people here never saw themselves, weren't trained in any manufacturing way, but in fact have the skills and the mindset that has fit in really well for us. So I think a large part of what we do, half of our marketing efforts are to the community about coming to work in manufacturing. The other half is to, find and, identify and connect with prospective clients, but prospective associates. I've been around long enough that I know I could put a sign out on the, on the front door saying, accepting applications, and have a line, an hour later. That isn't the case anymore. So making sure that we're presenting ourselves effectively and encouraging people with open houses, with a variety of other social media, to encourage people to consider manufacturing when they're thinking about what they might do for a job.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Stephanie, how about you?
So for us, we're definitely experiencing those same types of challenges, but I think for us, one of the things that has really come to light in the last couple of years is the skills gap. So what I mean by that is, I don't think it's just a hiring problem. I think it's a developmental challenge. Like the soft skills, the problem solving, the critical thinking, the communication, all of that is stuff that we're seeing a little bit of a challenge with, but the technical expertise is really where kind of the rubber meets the road. And you don't have people coming in that have these skills, right? We have schools that are starting to train on them, but I feel like there's a huge gap between having somebody be ready to start on your shop floor and, the silver tsunami that's coming of retirees that we're already starting to see and kind of feel. So I think retention is and kind of upskilling those individuals and those employees is going to be a challenge for us. We're already starting to experience that. So, I'm just hoping that that we're able to deploy enough technological advancements within our workforce to kind of bridge that gap while we're training these employees that are coming in, because we're finding people that want to work, they just don't know what they're doing.
Right, right. To play off that a little bit, I'm gonna jump to a question for Chris on that one. So back, like, let's go back years, right? And say like World War II, there was right there, that was a big thing that people knew how to do these skills right back then. And so let's go back to when we knew how to do that, and there's a gap now, right? So there's this big gap. So we have not focused on that in the time from between then and now. And now we have a big problem.
Yeah, we're losing that.
Let's look at that for like Chris.
Well,
About that in your era, right? Not your era,
yeah,
but talk about that in your industry and in your company. Let's bring that into you. How are you working on something like that? And that, going back to World War II, we had those skills. And I was thinking of this. I was watching a movie. Say, for example, I was watching The Deer Hunter with my son, and Mike, you said, put that sign out. I know, you put that sign out, right? And they worked in the manufacturing, they worked in the plant. Their sign was out front, and everybody in that community worked at that plant. And that doesn't happen anymore. You can't put that sign out front. Not everybody's working there. And Chris, and I know Dean had some of these questions developed, and you this was a question he had for you about how do we protect these skills that were around years ago, and they're not here anymore, and that gap has developed.
yeah,
What do we do?
yeah, I think it's a little bit of, I'll use the word pride. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I go back to, and I'm a history buff, so you go back to pre-World War II, and the great buildup of our military. That was an era of, we got to do what's right for the country, and companies on a dime changed their approach from making vehicles to making tanks, from making dishes to making weapons. So there was a little bit of that pride of America, and you're right, we've kind of lost that a little bit. But I think I go back to my point before on marketing the value of why manufacturing is important for this country. And you raised a couple of seconds ago, Mike said it too. It's you put a sign out saying wanted, and that's not selling the value. Okay, we need a live body. And I think I'm a big believer, if we can provide a level of interest in manufacturing with a potential employee, we're willing to train them through PMA. We're willing to give them the skills. We need a mindset of, I'm willing to step up to the plate, earn my keep, and earn my stripes. That's the thing that we're trying to create, is the value of working in our company, the value of manufacturing, what we are doing day in and day out to build parts that are for safety of vehicles or storing energy, whatever the case may be, selling that value proposition. And it's, again, I think going back into pre-World War II, it was just, that was part of our DNA. And we've lost some of that during, for obvious reasons, during the 50s, 60s, 70s, and maybe even in the 80s a little bit. But I think it's, and I don't want to bleed issues in, but also the cost of education is a heck of a lot different today than it was during, the late 40s, early 40s, excuse me. And that's an aspect of this that is, I don't want to get into it now, but that's an aspect that's really critical that we need to address.
Well, I want to jump in if I may and say, and actually ask a question of the other panelists. But what have you seen? And I know you're both active in this, in career and technical education. We've seen here in Ohio a huge upswing in interest in CTE. Our local career center for high school students, juniors and seniors, has grown 50% in their total enrollment in about 6 years. So we're finding a lot of kids saying, hey, this is a good way to go. And people are understanding that the trades, as they may be defined in a variety of ways, are a good way to go. That's a way for me to get a good job and have a career in something I'm interested in. Are you seeing the same thing in your areas?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. The schools that we've partnered with around our facilities, they are all very interested in hearing what the manufacturing world has to say. They're creating training programs or certification courses specifically for those types of roles. And also just what I'm happy to see, or one of the things that I'm excited about, is that I'm starting to see classes that will teach them proficiency in, like basic shop math, understanding tolerances, using measuring equipment, calipers, micrometers, those sorts of things. And the mechanical aptitude of those students coming out of those programs is so much higher than we've seen in the past. So I feel like the quality is starting to catch up. Again, it's just going to be bridging that gap between, the kids that are coming out now versus, the last 10, 15 years of students that, have all these fancy degrees and, can't can't measure anything with a micrometer. So
it is a big thing that we hear from the industry. Those are some of the skills that are missing. And we encourage, some of our members as well that we see, and, we're going to Ohio because we'll bring that up because that's where we're based as PMA, that the measurements of the schools as well is that they're measured by how many students go to college. And it's not necessarily whether they finish, it's that they go. That's a measurement of your state, and you're looking at, if your the CTEs are big, your technical schools, change the measurement and talk to your lobbyists, or talk to your senators, and talk to your Congress people and so forth, and maybe change those measurements as well, and say your career schools are just as important as your colleges, right? It's not just one, it's both, right? Look at both avenues for students. Career schools are just as important for these types of industries, so that manufacturing and other technical vocations are just as important to go into. Let's go back to some of your hiring things that we talked about at the very beginning, right? Of your challenges of hiring and so forth. What type of new technologies are in your hiring realms? What are you using? Mike, let's use you for an example. What are you using to attract and retain, or attract new employees? What type of technologies are you using to attract people in your hiring skills?
Well, again, in some ways it's pretty low tech, and in other ways not so. One is just getting people in our facility. Again, holding open houses so people know more about what it is we do, that it's manufacturing today is no longer the dirty, dark, and dangerous place that it was, as Chris alluded to earlier. The second thing, though, is increasingly tech-savvy folks, particularly on the lower end of the age spectrum, are using a variety of AI tools. And if you're not optimized for AI, that you're thinking in SEO, which if I'd said SEO 15 years ago, many of us would have said, I have no idea what CO is. Well, now it's geo. It's, so how do we, make sure that we're answering questions in our career page and throughout our web presence that people are asking AI search engines. So we're finding people are finding us that way. We're also finding clients and prospective clients around the world are finding us by using the same kind of large language models that people use to, write a speech or draft an email. So using not just search engine optimization, but optimizing for the AI as well.
And
Yeah, I
go ahead.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that 100%. I think the creativity of our business and where we have to go from creativity, efficiency, being nimble is um, is driving a level of, oh, I didn't realize you could you could be in front of a computer screen and you can run three brake presses, for example, with automation. Going back to Mike, if you can get them in and see that type of stuff, see the robotic arm moving, seeing the creativity of what you're doing here, what you're doing there, what you're doing, that gets people's attention. Again, I go back to, you're selling the value of manufacturing, and you got to get people to touch and feel and understand that. I do think that there is a mindset change in the school system about the value of manufacturing. And that only happens because we as manufacturing companies are pushing that into the school districts. If we don't do it, they're going to go down the path of least resistance and say, okay, you want to be a generalist, go to get a degree in English. Nothing wrong with a degree in English, but what's the end game? And I think that's a big part of what we need to do as well.
Right. And you mentioned AI. So Stephanie, let's talk about that. Like, what are you using AI in your facility? What are you doing with AI in Dayton Rogers?
Yeah, absolutely. AI, for us has become kind of a critical cornerstone of our training program. And I think as it continues to evolve, it's going to be integrated more into everyone's workforce, whether you like it or not. It's coming.
And it's a big term. I mean, it's right. It's broad. It's everyone. Yeah. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, some of the things that there's so many, like you said, different facets within AI, but one of the things that we're using it for currently is to kind of hyper personalize the learning experience for the employees. And so what I mean by that is, most people have heard of ChatGPT. But there's all kinds of different types of learning platforms, Gemini, Microsoft Copilot. There's a newer one that we're exploring called Coursebox. And basically it's an AI teaching assistant, and they have all kinds of different stuff like chat bots, specific course content. Like if an employee, takes a picture of something and says, help explain this to me, it will go through and it will explain exactly what that is. We've even gotten it down to the point where it's writing work instructions for different things. And of course, you still have to go through that and make it make sense for your business and your company. But I mean, it just takes away all the administrative tasks of it. And it provides the people, the human trainers, the autonomy to be able to, show them more specialized things, where the AI is able to, take care of kind of the smaller medial tasks. So we've been using that quite a bit and kind of exploring that, and just on a deeper level for an employee, trying to create a customized training roadmap for them through the learning management system that we have. So, each employee sits down, we check in with them once a month, but we also have, when they first start, we sit down and we talk about, what do you think you want your path here to be? What interests you? And then just continuously checking in, but utilizing the AI to help us literally build that roadmap. So you ask the employee what they want, where they want to go, and you can do things like download their resume into the chat, and then say, this is where this employee wants to go, and this is the time frame in which we want to do it. Please build me a learning path for this employee with, customized check-ins. And it spits it out like that.
Yeah.
and then you just have to follow up on it. So it's really good. It's going to help the skills gap. It helps with the analysis of that. It's great.
Right.
There's a lot of spitting going on, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's
But
good.
and the good thing about that, I think, from an employee perspective, is that you're saying to them, listen, we're going to give you the tools to be successful, and
Yes.
here are the tools, and you know, and we're going to measure it, and we're going to hold you accountable. But our job is to give you the tools to be successful. That's what good leaders and good leadership companies do. Is let's identify the path. Let's put forth the effort to identify where you're going to go, help you get there. Ultimately, it's up to them, and that's the best we can do as a leader is to say, we believe in you. We're going to invest in you. We're going to pay for you to go to school. We're going to pay for education. We're going to pay to work, but we're going to help you get to that next level. And I love walking to facilities when I see something on the wall that says, today you're in the shipping receiving department, but if you want to take the path to quality, here's all the things you have to do. And that to me is very beneficial.
100%. It gives them a path to grow. And that's how you're going to retain your workforce.
Absolutely.
That's what the generations want. We know that for sure. Yeah. Right. And since this is a Fab Summit, we know that it's a high technology area. So, and we're talking about AI and we're talking about technology. So how do you see us integrating, the fabrication and the technology area, and how does this all integrating in each of your facilities, right? How are you integrating this technology in your business? How are you bringing this into each one of your areas to leverage technology fluent in your workforce?
Well,
throw that out there.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, again, I go back, a couple decades. How much would we have been talking about our learning management system and how tech-enabled it is that we can customize the LMS per person, as opposed to saying, hey, here are the 4 things you can go out and do. No, we can make it very one-on-one. And let's be candid too. We're smaller businesses. If smaller enterprises can't do this well, we're not going to compete and keep people from going to larger organizations who have more developed things. We have the same resources available to us that the larger organizations do too. But we have the added benefit of you're going to know the owners, you're going to know the managers, you're going to have a greater stake in a sense of being a part of an organization than you might in a far-flung larger operation. So I think using our LMS and the resources associated with it is incredibly exciting. You have some people that take great advantage of it. And for us, that includes people on the floor saying, hey, I'm interested in a career in industrial engineering or mechanical engineering or material sciences or whatever. And we can support that. And they can do it working full-time. They can do it working part-time. And we provide the flexibility that in the past, even that flexibility would have been so difficult because you'd say, oh, you have to deal with the time card and how are we going to do all this? You know what? The systems today that we all employ can handle that kind of flexibility. So we're able to provide people what they need when they need it in a way that they can consume it, and we as our organizations can benefit from it.
Right.
Absolutely. I think that in tandem with that, the tech fluent younger generation, they're not interested in manual labor. They're interested in programming, optimizing things, using AI, machine learning, cobots, automating. They want to do the programming of that. That's what they're learning in school. That's what they're used to. That's what they see. And so I think that as we continue to develop as an industry, these are areas that we really need to focus on, because this is, for fabrication especially, this is where it's going. I mean, it's already there. So if you're not already investing in these types of things, you should start.
Yeah. How are you using? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
What I was going to say is that the value of fabrication for our customers and the expectation from the customers is they want us to be nimble. In today's world, they have to be, there's no such thing as there is, but a frozen print. Everything is evolving, okay? And
100%.
you have to be nimble. You have to be able to think not in 5-year programs like we do in the automotive world. You have to be thinking in 5-week increments. And the equipment people are getting it, because you look at all the new equipment, they're coming out for efficiency, for training, they're adapting to that one person who's doing coding, and as like I said before, operating 4 or 5 different pieces of equipment. Our customers expect us to adapt, not only from their perspective, what they need from us as a supplier, but they're also expecting us to mitigate risk in the world of employees. And I've said this before, companies leave suppliers not necessarily because of price, because of risk issues. Either they're not training their employees properly, or they look at the census, they look at, you go through an audit, a lot of the audits today are, show me your training plan, show me your path. What are you doing to invest in your biggest asset, which is people? And if we don't do that, there's a risk there. So, it's all kind of coming together.
EHS as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just the audit of what can you do and how do you do it, but it's everything that wraps around that too. Are you providing a safe environment? Now, we're all required by law to provide a safe environment, but do our customers say, no, I don't consider that sufficiently safe, or I don't like what you're doing environmentally. I need to know what your carbon footprint is. All those sorts of things come into play here too.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Right. As Stephanie, you mentioned cobots. Bit of an interest in that. How do you think you can utilizing them more in the workforce more effectively?
Well, I think that cobots, they're so much more affordable now than they've ever been. There's all kinds of different ways you can use a cobot. I actually just recently went through a plant tour, and I saw a cobot that was taking the material off of the laser, forming it in a brake press, putting it into a checking feature, a laser scanner basically to check all the dimensions on it, and then it dropped into the box. I mean, that's the job of at least 2 people, right? So it's going through and it's doing this. Cobots don't take breaks.
Right.
But I want to be clear though, I don't think that this is replacing human workers. I think it's designed, or it's going to be designed to work side by side with human staff, right? So
it's there to augment the process. It really is.
Exactly. All the what is it? The 3Ds, the dirty, the dull, the dangerous tasks. So anything like that, the repetitive stuff, picking and placing, any heavy lifting, any safety stuff. That's the perfect job for a cobot.
That stuff that you were just talking about. Yeah, that it's helping with that, the safety, the where you're taking some of that risk out of things, where that safety is, where that manual labor that maybe the younger generation doesn't want to do. Right? It's helping with all of that, where you were just wrapping up sort of what you were all just kind of talking about.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's good. Chris or Mike, anywhere that you've
the cobots to me are, as Stephanie said, I think they're a way to augment your process. How can we do things with a higher quality and more efficiently? And Stephanie raises a great point. The cobot doesn't take breaks, but the cobot can break down too. So it's identifying a process. It all starts with the process, identifying a process that is really strong, and then going back to the employee side of it, having an employee look at this process and say, okay, I got 6 steps here. How can we become more efficient, knock it down to 3 steps? What do I need, right? And then using things like cobots or any type of automation or AI, whatever it might be, to improve the process, not for their own workspace, but for the entire business. And let's face it, if you can become more efficient in today's world, whether it's with AI or automation or cobots, that benefits the company versus anybody else. So it's a combination of all the above.
Good. So going into sort of the end of getting your sort of wrapping up some of this and hoping we get some time to wrap up some questions, I want to look at some of the future. So what do you see as maybe some of the next wave of skills that we talked about? There's the big gap, right? We had what we had in World War II and what our skills were then and what they still are now. What we need to replace and maybe what we need to kind of go for. What do you see maybe coming in the future? What are the skills we need to do now, and what do we need to do in the future for workforce development?
Well,
a wonderful question.
Yeah, I think some of the things that people who are looking to continue to advance in manufacturing or get started in manufacturing need to look at is, we're dealing with massive amounts of data that's going to be generated by all of this AI technology that we've been talking about. So being able to come in and, understand the programming, understand how to troubleshoot when these types of data dumps happen, they're going to need a basic understanding of how the AI works together, how the machine learning works together with the AI, and just have some ideas of ways that you can bring value in spite of the AI, right? So having the soft skills to be a good communicator, be a good leader, be driven. If there is an opportunity, raising your hand first and stepping up and asking, to take those opportunities. So I guess it's a combination of soft skills and just understanding where this new technology is going to lead us is what I would recommend people start focusing on if they're not already.
And I love what you've said, Stephanie, and would tack on and say, I want to find people who are systems thinkers, who think in terms of the whole system, not think about, I just want to do my little part here. How does your little part fit into everything else? Our responsibility as the leaders of our organizations is to help people understand where that fits in and to broaden their perspective. And having somebody coming in with not preconceived notions about, I just want to be a pair of hands. Candidly, the pair of hands is a cobot. That's
Right.
not what we want anymore.
Right.
A generation or two ago, I had associates who said, I just want to be a pair of hands. Just let me come in, do my work, and you give me a paycheck every other week. That's not sufficient anymore. I want people curious. I want people that say, how could we do this better? How does this fit into the overall system? What are we trying to accomplish? And our job is to train people to think like that and to find people interested in thinking like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Again, if I had a blueprint to start a company, I would say create a culture of curiosity. And Mike, you just kind of alluded to that, and that's what we need. We need a culture of what ifs. We need a culture of I'm not just doing this. I'm like looking at this from a big picture, and how do I achieve our goals by trying this and trying that, and doing this and getting the training for that. Creating that culture of curiosity, creating the culture of consistent what ifs, I think, is where we have to go in the future, because those tools are coming to us. We have to be able to utilize those tools, and that's, I think, is a game changer in our world of workforce development, engagement, and retention. Is create that of, we have all these different tools out there, how do those affect your job and your success in your job? And um, that's I think that's a blueprint of success is curiosity.
I'll add on to that and say that's one of the key questions I ask in the interview process as we're considering candidates. But we specifically look for three characteristics for people to work for us, regardless of the job. One is, are they a positive producer? Are they somebody that says, what do we need to do? Let's get about doing it. And other people want to work around them. A second is resilient problem solvers. If we've got somebody that says, I've never had a problem, I've never gotten knocked out, you know what? Keep moving. I want somebody that's overcome challenges and figure out a way to solve problems because I guarantee we're going to have them.
Oh yeah.
And the last is a great teammate. You know, are you somebody that other people can count on? Are you somebody who just shows up on game day? Or are you there to practice every day, systematically getting better, encouraging the people around you? Those are the characteristics we seek out explicitly.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
in the I'm using Ted Lasso these days as a as a bookshelf of great quotes and comments. But in one of the scenes, he talks about, and I wrote it down. It's be curious, not judgmental, which is a Walt Whitman phrase, right? And that to me sums up where we as company and leaders have to go in manufacturing.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
it's undeniably an exciting time to be in manufacturing, and I can tell just from my fellow presenters here today, they're excited to be in manufacturing because there's so much evolving, so much coming, and so much need out there. And on the buying side, it's so fun to find people who say, "Hey, I need help. Are you somebody that I can count on? Are you?" And we've got to make sure we've got the team together that they can count on. When you do that, magic happens.
And it's good to see, and kind of putting a big bow on things and wrapping things up. It's good to see as a workforce development person and someone who has spent I spent about 12 years in the higher ed field before I came into this, right? It's good. I've been on both sides of the world, and it's good to see that we are seeing a shift and we are seeing things, people realizing the trades are coming around. It's good to see that the opportunities are there for both, right? We aren't just focused on one or the other. I'd like to see the opportunities opening up and people realizing that it's not just a college world, that opportunities are there for both, right? Both. And I love to see that opening up. So parents in the world, please open up the doors for both. And workforce development, I love to see companies who are investing in their people, that the opportunities are opening up, and that, as you all have said, career pathways, and seeing that those opportunities are there for people to know that, those signs are on the walls that opportunity is there, and people want to see that you are investing in them and giving them the opportunity. So thank you all for on that side, for our panelists for being here. Thank you so much. Do we have Lou and Allie? Do we have some questions coming in?
Yeah, actually we do. First of all, thank you everyone. That's very insightful. There was a lot of discussion about problem solving and then finding people with that capability. Do you have any training toward that, or is there anything out there, or is it just some type of quality that you look for in people coming in the door? I mean, how can problem solving be developed?
As far as the people that you're trying to retain, or where do you go to retain them?
I think both. I mean, looking in the first place, you're looking for problem solvers coming in the door.
Sure.
But the people you have in place, like, how do you work with them to say, hey, here's a process we could do better. I'm noticing this here. How do you establish that communication and get them to open up on it?
So for us here, you know, going back to kind of the soft skills, when we're doing our recruiting and our interviewing process, that's one of the things we look for is just the soft skills that are going to match our core values, because we have some very specific core values of things that we're looking for in a person. One of the biggest ones is, do they have grit? So we will do things within the interview process to see how people handle change or handle, you know, this situation, things like that. And that gives us a lot of insight into, you know, what type of person is going to be coming in the door for us. So we really place a heavy emphasis on the soft skills in the beginning, because I'm a believer that you can train somebody on the technical side of things. There's so many courses and programs and things like that, but you know, how somebody was raised, the experiences they've had in life, you have no control over that, right? So you have to see what that person is like and if they're going to fit within the culture that you're trying to build. So we do on that side of things. Once they're in the door, I think that one of the biggest impactors of culture and just getting people up to speed or where you want to see them is your management team, the people that are directly interacting with those employees. So we actually spend a lot of time with the direct managers. So your shop floor managers, you know, your plant managers, the people that are responsible more or less for the culture, overall culture of the company. And it does have to come from the top down, but those are the people that are interacting with those individuals every day. And so making sure that they understand how to be a good leader, how to meet their people where they're at, you know, how to display the core values that you're trying to show them. You know, basically living it and breathing it. So those are kind of the two things that we focus on, is, you know, looking at the soft skills coming in the door, and then making sure that the people that are responsible for them, you know, are displaying those in a healthy way.
Great.
And I'll add to that and say, you know, I think it's you have to be clever in your interviewing process.
Yes.
To try to uncover how people have dealt with problems. Hey, tell me about the worst thing you ever happened to you. What'd you do about it? You know, it's a little bit too obvious.
Yeah.
You know, I just care too much is, you know, my big negative for me. I just care. Try to avoid those kind of responses. But it's also about talking to references and, you know, understanding where their lived experience and whether or not that's going to fit in well with what you have. Knowing full well you're not going to bat 1,000. But if you can bat 400, see in Cooperstown.
And I can also add that in our Management Development Academy, we do have a whole session on problem solving, and it is a skill. It can be trained and taught, but yeah, it is a process to learn.
And earlier in our discussion, talked about SEO and GEO, about attracting job candidates. Do you have any lessons learned in using those tools? Anything you'd like to impart to our audience?
Well, just to be clear, GSO I'm referring to is generative search optimization.
Yes.
So if somebody is saying in an AI tool, I'm looking for these characteristics of a job, and you need to make sure that your web and social presence mirrors that by essentially answering questions that people may be asking. It works in marketing to your prospective clients as well as to your prospective associates. So think in terms of answering questions that somebody's going to be asking. That's the quick ABC of it.
Okay. And I did want to add one more thing. You know, we talked so much about cobots and automation and everything else. Have you made in my travels, when I go through plants for articles and things like that, it always comes into the discussion that, you know, we brought in this new automation, this cool press tending equipment, or, you know, material handling for, you know, laser cutting or punch presses or whatever. But, you know, these companies, they didn't think about it till after the fact, but they really have a showcase there. They could get video out, they could go to schools, whatever. They show the kind of stuff they're doing. They've told me it makes an impact. Can you talk maybe for a minute or so about maybe some of your efforts in that regard, maybe highlighting your high technology and if that's paid off for you?
It's a great question, and we're just investing probably $500,000 right now on a piece of automation equipment that is about as sexy as you can get with regards to automation. And the automation equipment is going to provide us efficiencies, quality improvement, etc., labor improvement. But the most exciting, and hopefully the biggest ROI on it, will be twofold. Number one, getting people excited about what we do in manufacturing, hence your question about employees. And then conversely, getting a customer to go, wow, these guys, you know what, they're investing and they're doing it the right way. And, you know, using that, I'll call it case study to generate a level of wow or aha moments. And we can push that through our website. We push that through LinkedIn. We've had more success finding people through LinkedIn than we've had probably any other place at this time for the last probably year plus. But I think the reason we're successful there is because we're constantly, as I said in the beginning, selling our company and selling the value of joining our company and selling the value of this position. So it kind of works hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. There's for example, you know, our South Carolina division is getting a new piece of equipment right now. We're in the process of installing a 8K kilowatt laser. And the tech school down the street got word of this, and they have a cohort of students that are coming through next week. You know, to try, they're going to be the first ones to turn it on and try to problem solve through how to get it running. You know, I mean, that's great news for us. Two birds, one stone. We got students interested, and I don't have to have employees over there trying to figure out how to turn it on. So, I mean, that's a win-win. You know, but I mean, we use a lot of social media as well. You know, constantly just blasting that out, making sure you have good SEO, a solid website, good landing pages on your websites. You know, those are all things that are going to just, you know, enhance that presence and kind of draw people in, future employees and customers.
A lot of those future employees are in high school today, or in a local technical college. Our job is to get out there where they are, not expect them to cross our threshold. We need to cross their threshold first and invite them to come across ours.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's millions of open jobs, you know, skilled positions that are with companies that have great benefits. It's great pay, you know, all these different perks, and they just have all these openings, you know? And so you're right. It's about getting out to them and educating them on, you know, the different opportunities that they might not know about.
Mm-hmm. And it's great that you're highlighting your technology to do that. I mean, there's so much competition for cool these days. You're competing with, you know, gaming, with everything everyone sees out there all the time. So anything you can do to say, hey, you're part of the future world, come join us. That's got to pay dividends, I would think.